Hello, I'm Matt.
I'm Sonja.
Welcome once again to our Life in Podcast, the autobiographical podcast where me and my wife talk shit for a while about our life and times. How you doing this week, my lady?
Good.
Pretty good?
Tired.
So, we're going to be covering today a topic that is sensitive, apparently, to YouTube, because if you use the P or C word... Just realized how dirty that sounded. Anyway, if you use the P or C word, they demonetize. But luckily for us, we're not monetized, so we can talk about the pandemic and COVID as much as we want right now. So that's what today's episode's about. Sonja, anything you'd want to start with today?
Do you want me to just go in and start?
I'll be honest. I myself do not have many notes on this. I just more have thoughts and kind of just want to talk about what our experience was during the time that we were in lockdown and beyond.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll start off then with the beginning. I was working in a kitchen, and they were telling us, like, have you heard in the news the virus going around? Make sure you wash your hands, like, ever so often, vigorously, 20 seconds or... Well, it's 2 minutes. 20 seconds or 2 minutes? No, it's 20 seconds.
30 seconds.
20
seconds? Whatever. I wash my hands for longer than that regardless. And also, in a kitchen, shouldn't you have been doing that to begin with?
Yes, they're saying, like, more often, more, like, vigorous and stuff like that. And using hand sanitizer as much as possible. I mean, again, we are doing that too because kids are gross. And, yeah. Anyway.
Especially right at the beginning of this whole thing, you were probably in one of the worst spots someone could be in, being at a school that has people from all over the country.
Yeah.
But.
Well, at the beginning, I thought, this is no big deal. It's probably just like the big swine flu, bird flu, etc. And, like, I was like, why is people all, like, getting worked up? Like, me... when I was cleaning one day, and they're like, make sure you clean the handles off the drinks and all the bar area, clean it up. I'm like, okay, I'll do it, but whatever. I think everyone's wasting their time. But when everything went in lockdown and the deaths kept coming, I was like, oh wow, this is actually quite freaking serious.
Yeah, with my perspective, when the pandemic first started, because let's face it, the whole pandemic was filled with misinformation, like, right from the beginning, and it is because it was new. It was because it was something we haven't really experienced before.
I wouldn't call it misinformation. They were trying to figure it out, and they were just telling people what basically they were being told and everything. It was just trial and error, but everyone thinks it's misinformation. It's not. It was something new.
It wasn't the way it was presented across the media and online, especially with people joking about it when it first started. It honestly didn't seem like it was much more serious than just a normal flu. Maybe a little more serious, because we didn't know anything about the death rates. We didn't know anything about the effects of the pandemic, COVID.
Yeah.
Man, it's so weird. I'm so inclined just not to say it. It's odd, but I do remember I was working at the time for a bank, and you could tell, like, everybody was pretty relaxed. No, we were barely talking about it. Maybe it was brought up every once in a while, and then one day, all of a sudden, I noticed the doors were being propped open. There was hand sanitizer that was spread out everywhere. And this was before any lockdowns went into effect.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Things were getting, like, kind of serious before, because it's like they were hearing things on the news and it was spreading. So they made the precautions, but then it was just like, this is too serious. We need to lock down.
For myself, I didn't really start getting worried about it until we were locked down, because it was at that point that it really hit home that it probably was more serious than it seemed.
Yeah.
And also, it just, everything that was going on especially in that first, like, 1 to 2 week frame, made it literally seem like the world was coming to an end for a while.
Yeah, because everyone was panic buying.
Yeah, they were panic buying. Everybody's going to remember 2020, besides pandemic, as being the year of the toilet paper shortage.
Yeah.
Which was funny. I remember, well, it wasn't funny, but I remember going out when we needed toilet paper because we didn't stock up on it like everybody else did. We were just kind of playing it by ear. And I remember finding one of them at a grocery store, coming home, and I'm like, you better be making out with me later for this, because this is like liquid gold.
Yeah,
or liquid gold.
I went to a Dollar Tree to get, like, singles, and they're, like, even that place where I didn't think it'd be hit was hit, and I just got, like, 6 rolls. I'm like, that'll last us a couple weeks.
But where do you have, what's your, like, your next note? Because I'm going to work off you here a bit.
Well, the thing about the masks is that in the beginning, they did say, oh, it might be a good idea to wear them, but you don't have to. But then as things gradually went on, like in March, they're like, no, you need to wear a mask. Everyone says, like, well, they said you didn't have to. Now they're all saying it's like, yeah, because they were still studying it and learning about it. And they were like, now we're having a mandate.
So, I mean, this is going to be probably one of the hot takes, I guess, of this whole thing. But the mask thing, to me, it never made sense why there was so much pushback against it. Because you see surgeons wearing masks for the same reason, to not spread germs into open wounds. And Asian countries especially wore masks in general when they were sick, you know, when the flu was prominent and everything like that.
When we were in Japan, I was going to get a pack of masks before we came over, but I never got a chance to, so it's just kind of like ironic. Oh, we have to wear masks now. I'm like, shit, I should have bought them.
So yeah, that didn't make sense to me, because I guess American mentality is, it was some sort of imposition on freedoms.
All I got to say is, you got some more problems if you can't put a piece of cloth on your face.
So to me, it was never that big of an issue. What was the fact that at first, when the mask mandates went out, I was not always prepared. I remember going out a few times, and I actually, for some reason, I kept a Halloween mask in the car that we had. And for at least the first week or two, I was using just the Halloween mask because it covered that part of my face.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure got a lot of looks, even more so.
Well, at first, too, the only thing I was using was a bandana with, like, big old stretch bands. Like, I would wrap it around and then do that and clip it until we actually got a chance to buy masks, because, I mean, those were a hot commodity and you couldn't really find them anywhere until, boom, I found some.
So, what else I did, I remember also, because I was out and caught completely off guard at the first store that actually required it, because I didn't have it. So I just kind of tucked my face into my shirt and tried to hold it up the whole time I was in the store.
I've done that a couple of times. But again, at least you're trying, unlike other people that, like, sit there and refuse to do anything.
It's if of everything to get pissy about in this country, why was health and safety of the general public such a big fucking deal for people to take into consideration? It literally became a situation for a lot of people that it was me versus you, when it didn't need to be like that. There was no reason for that.
Yeah, like, I'm not comparing it to the flu, because COVID already been proven that it's worse than the flu. But it's like, during the flu seasons and stuff like that, we always help each other and all that stuff. Like,
that's not true either, because there are people that, especially jobs here in America, I don't know how it is across the world with this, where being sick don't mean shit. You have to literally be dead. It'd be prior to the pandemic. You had to literally be dead in a lot of places before you were not seen as being a pain in the ass for calling in, or guilt tripped for it. And no, this place doesn't. I I feel like I'm shitting on America, but quite frankly, America pissed me off during the pandemic.
No, they were disgusting how they handled it because they were so unprepared. And it's like, why were you unprepared? We've had, like I said before, the bird flu, the swine flu. Like, they could have prepared. Yeah, those didn't get as big. They did in other countries, not in America, thank God. But it's like, you guys should have learned from those other countries and be prepared for literally anything. But no, everyone was fucked. Like, I felt bad for doctors and nurses. I still do because people are still treating them like shit.
But that's what I mean. Also, that mentality of the us versus them was like a lot of the anti-maskers or whatever you want to call them, which, again, I feel like I'm calling out people. I kind of am, but whatever. They were selfish. They were like, well, why should I wear the mask? Why should I get the vaccine? I shouldn't be worried. I should be healthy and whatever. It's not necessarily always for you. It is for everybody else around you, your community, your family. But, again, people don't understand that until it literally is knocking right in their face.
Yeah, I think it's not funny, but it's, like, ironic, too. People are like, oh, it won't happen to me, I won't happen to me. Those people will literally get COVID and die. And it's like, oh, it wouldn't happen to you, huh?
Well, obviously not every time. That's why there's still people like that, is because...
Yeah, they'll learn when it happens to them or their family member.
So, while I do believe America as a whole didn't have much of a community around it, I do think there was a lot of interesting things that kind of popped up around the pandemic that people just kind of gravitated towards. One of them being Animal Crossing, which seemed to be the only thing at the beginning of the pandemic that united at least gamers. Like, same thing with games like Among Us and Fall Guys during last year. Those seem to be the only things that people were... One of the more general consensus things. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you get what I get the main idea.
Animal Crossing, you could play online, and a lot of people did, like, let's say if they couldn't have a real wedding, they had, like, an Animal Crossing wedding through, like, the online play. Graduations were all closed. They would do a fake graduation in Animal Crossing. If they haven't seen their family in a while, they would do it. Like, the online play helped a lot. That's why Animal Crossing was, like, so big, and it came out literally when lockdown happened. One thing about it, like this whole, that was, God, gotta cut this out. Alright. Shopping was a new experience, is because some people didn't realize what 6 feet was, or like even any kind of space. They'd be right up top in your ass. It's like, back up. I was about ready to carry a yardstick with me and be like, 6 feet, motherfucker! Which is funny because South Park did it with Cartman.
So, funny you mention that, because even prior to this, one of the things I hated, and it hated then, hate now, probably will hate forever, is people always on your fucking ass while you're trying to shop. Dude, I'm not going to go any faster because you're trying to split my ass cheeks with your cart. Step back a few feet. I mean, to me, the fucking 6 feet thing was a godsend, because I hated people on top of me as it was.
Well, the other thing, too, the social distancing they should keep. The other thing they should keep is cleaning down ever so often, especially during flu. Like, maybe not all the time, but since things are opening up, they're like, oh, we can lax on the cleaning. But it's like, no, you shouldn't. You should keep doing that during the flu season, because you get people all the time that just cough out or sneeze. It's like, you got a coverage right here.
So, to you, what was... Because we've been focusing a lot on negatives, what other positive aspects do you think there were? At least, there had to be, you know, some silver lining, or people would go crazy anyway.
Well, I honestly enjoyed our time, because prior to, like we talked about it in the jobs episode, I felt like I could actually spend time with you and Raiden more, and, like, it was awesome. And on your birthday, we built, like, a weird fort with lights. That was fun, and we had the... Yeah,
trying to celebrate my birthday during a pandemic was definitely interesting.
It was still fun. Yeah, I made an awesome cake, and I made an awesome dinner of meatloaf.
I mean, it was nothing like what it usually is, because usually we will go out to eat dinner or go shopping or something. Spree.
And the other time is we had like a nostalgia day, listening to old music and stuff like that, trying to pretend like it was a fun night.
Another episode. If I knew how to do those annotations, they'll be around here somewhere, but you get the idea.
The other thing is, this was like later in the year in October, I went to my best friend's wedding, and she did it very safe. Like, she had 2 groups. One group was in the morning, like, did the ceremony and, like, the real reception. And then at night, she had the second group, which was mostly, like, friend. Like, the first group was family. The second one was mostly friends, which I was involved, me, obviously. But everything went smoothly. There wasn't that many people. You couldn't dance because New York State rule at the time was, like, if you have a party, you can't really dance. I'm like, well, that sucks. But we still had fun, and no one got COVID. So, and then you hear about these other parties or weddings. They're like, oh, COVID this, COVID that. And it's like, really? Did you really need that many people and not wear masks? Because, again, at this wedding, they were really safe. One of the gifts was hand sanitizer. But everyone was wearing a mask, safe, all that good stuff. So it's just like, it can be done. You just chose not to. And just like, fuck health. The thing that pisses me off is, like, no one understanding science or health or listening. Because it was trial and error and hypothesis. Like, will this work? Whatever. It's like, yeah, I wasn't the greatest student in science. I was like a B major. But, like, I don't understand how people didn't, like, know how vaccines work and stuff. Like, right now they're saying, well, what's the point of getting it? People are still getting COVID, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, if more people got it, not everyone would get COVID, because we're in the new Delta phase, and it's a lot worse than the normal COVID. But if everyone got the vaccine, it'd be less severe, and it would finally die. But, again, and the vaccines in general, they don't get rid, or they don't, it's not like 100%, but it is more like 90% or whatever, and when you do get it, it's less severe.
Again, it is another argument about people that, I guess, just don't pay attention. I mean, I knew people before the pandemic that the flu shot was off limits to them as well. They wanted nothing to do with it because they're like, oh, you get the flu shot, you'll get sick anyway. And well, yeah, it's the same. It's the same fucking thing, though. The flu shot and the COVID shot, they both are not foolproof. It's not a 100% guarantee, regardless. It's just a protection against. It's more of a protection. It's kind of like going into a fight with body armor on. If you're at war, you go to fight. You have body armor on. Your chances of survival are a hell of a lot higher than someone that's going out there wearing just a t-shirt and jeans.
Yeah, it gives you more antibodies and stuff like that. But the flu, I think they should rework it, because it's only like 50% effective now. Like, people are still getting like sick, maybe not as bad, but some who get the shot will feel like total shit. And it's like, was this even worth it? So I think what they should do is revamp it, because it's not as strong, because there's new variants of flu every year, and it's getting, the strain they're using is like kind of getting weaker and weaker. It's not really working that well.
So another thing I was going to add, because I mean, I feel like we just kind of went off on idiots, I guess, during this, if we want to call them that.
Well, they're literally making this drag out, and it's like, you could have just done it. They just keep calling it poison. You know, McDonald's, poison.
God damn it. The one thing also I was going to bitch about, because we were saying, like, things that kind of went back to normal, which means things people don't do anymore, I guess, is washing their hands.
They don't do that anymore.
I fucking went into a convenience store, and I had to use the bathroom, and the guy before me went in, I'm assuming just pissed or whatever, and came right the fuck back out. Now, once I hear the water running, and he was in and out way too quick to have cleaned his hands.
I went to a department store, and they only had one residential bathroom, and the guy came out and was like, I don't know, like wiping his nose and stuff like that, but it was like he flushed the toilet and went out. Like, there was no water or nothing. I'm like, he definitely didn't do it, because I think they had an air blower too, and not towels.
It's another thing I have to ask: are people that are people like this anywhere but the United States? Are they that gross mostly?
Yep.
Because it's like, yeah, the pandemic or the COVID's not like, I guess we're not in the heat of it anymore, but it don't mean you gotta fucking lack hygiene all of a sudden.
Yeah, but we still are, because the Delta variant's getting bad.
Yeah, now, but...
The thing I'm gonna add to, like, obviously we're vaccinated, and we still wear masks, because what he just said, people are not washing their hands, and it's just gross. I've seen people not cover their cough, their sneeze, and everything. It's like, have you learned nothing? But I also got it because friends were getting it, people around me, and I was like, you know what? I really don't want COVID. I don't think I would last, because I had pneumonia twice as a child, and my parents smoked, so it's like, I don't, because everyone's saying, like, after you have COVID, your lungs are a lot worse than before. And I'm like, I'm not taking chances, because, yeah, I was a little skeptical at first, but I just swallowed the bullet and did it, and it wasn't that bad.
Well, I mean, I was going to get it regardless because, one, my breathing already sucks. I don't need no COVID or pneumonia or anything like that on top of it. Pardon me. But also for our son, he can't be vaccinated because he's too young. Yeah. So I'd rather not take a risk of spreading anything to him. Again, thinking for others besides ourselves, but that,
Which, talking about our son, I'm going to add, he wears his mask 100% better than all the adults.
I feel like we just bitched for most of this podcast instead of talking about our life during the pandemic more than anything.
Because 2020 was not a good year for us either. It's like, one, there was stuff that happened, and then there's just nothing happened. And
I mean, most people didn't have much go on in 2020, I would assume. For me, I did go on I guess you can call it a business trip to Vermont, which I sort of covered in our jobs episode as well, where I had gotten a job where I was supposed to have a job and was doing training out in Vermont, put me up in a really nice hotel. But that was in the midst of the pandemic too, and definitely a lot different than any other job orientation I've been to, because none of us were close to each other. They had to make sure that we were all spaced out, spread out basically throughout a whole fucking building, a whole church in this case. And when we did one of the things we had to do required us to touch like a computer screen. And they had to, between every person, they took like a full minute to clean up everything and make sure it was all disinfected, which probably slowed the whole interview process, or orientation process, down to a halt. But fuck, I loved my hotel, and I loved where I went. It was beautiful up there.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Vermont sometime.
But yeah, besides that, I was spending a lot of time with the family, stuff that I missed for several years, and I felt like 2020 actually helped me catch up on all that.
Yeah. I think we had better times we've only been in lockdown for like the beginning of the year, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna open stuff. I mean, it wasn't really lockdown, but because like the first time it's like only go out for emergencies and stuff like that, but this one was like be safe and stuff like that, no parties still, whatever. Anyway, but I decided to go on a health kick, and I've lost 26 pounds so far.
I went the opposite direction during the pandemic.
No, I gained 10 pounds last year, but I lost that and then some. Thank God.
Yes, Miss Gloat over here.
I'm not gloating. I worked hard for that shit.
Anyway, I think that about does it for our pandemic episode. Basically, just wanted to get our thoughts out there, which I'm sure 80% of even our viewers probably fucking disagree with.
Who knows if this will be watched, but I think it was.
So, you have our question of the week this week, right? Mm-hmm. So, go ahead, fire.
That question is, if you could have any superpower, which one would you choose, and why?
Flight. So I didn't have to drive anywhere.
Cheater? I was going to say that. Well, flying or mind reader, so I can actually tell what people actually think of me.
I don't give a shit what people think.
I don't either, but then I'd be like, oh, that bitch is lying.
I feel like I'd spend too much time in other people's minds if I could do that, which could both be entertaining and disturbing, so I'm choosing not to. But the flight, say I want to go down to DC for a weekend or whatever, fucking just fly my own ass over.
Yeah, I would like to fly because everything would be faster and we could go anywhere we wanted to.
But if I did have flight, I'd probably need invincibility as well. Not invisibility, invincibility. It sounded like I said invisibility. Because if I accidentally fly over no-fly zones, I don't want to get shot down.
And you're you're really clumsy, so you'd probably run into a building.
Yeah, I'd probably crash into something. So, anyway, that about does it for this week's episode. Next week's episode, I think it's time to just lay on that I have a surprise in store for Sonja. And she will find out what it is soon. Have a good day.
Bye.
Hey everybody, this is Matt here. I just want to thank everybody for watching. If you like what you saw, please go ahead and click on that subscribe button. And for another video, go ahead and click one of those videos here in whatever corner it's in. Thanks for watching.